What the heck does a county commissioner do? Stay tuned and find out. Hi, I'm Sue Jeffers for Libertarian Viewpoint. Libertarianism is all about liberty, the exercise of freedom that doesn't impinge on the rights of others. We constantly hear the drum roll of government solutions. This show's purpose is to allow you to see for yourself why non-government solutions are a better alternative. Today our guest is Rhonda Sivarajah, and I probably mispronounced your name because it's a tongue twister.
It is a tongue twister. It's Sivarajah.
Sivarajah, and you are the Anoka County Commissioner, and better than that, you're the chair of the Anoka County Commission, correct?
I am.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Wanted you to be on the show today because I want people to understand more about local government. And I can go up and down my street in my neighborhood and ask, hey, do you know who the Ramsey County Commissioner is for our neighborhood? And no one can tell me. And I thought, okay, Rhonda's coming on. She's going to explain to us what is county government.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's a very common situation. I know when I go out door knocking, the first thing people say is, you know, I want to ask you, what does a county commissioner really do? I really don't know. And so county government is really that invisible arm of government that is responsible for so many of the state mandated functions, actually. And so we act as an arm of the state, carrying out those functions. And in Minnesota, we are one of 12 states that have human services that are actually administered at the local level. And so a county commissioner is responsible for really the big policy issues and decisions, the administrative functions of county government, but then also for the financial aspects and the taxation. So many times, the only time you think about county government is when you get your property tax statement.
And then we all complain.
Right, right. But really, county government impacts your daily life. From the time you're born, we're responsible for vital statistics, your birth certificates. You know, if you say, I do, you need to get a marriage license, you go to your county. If someone ends up in jail, again, it's a county function. So there's so many aspects that counties are involved with that people don't even think about.
Yeah, I never think about any of it. Seriously, when I pay my property taxes, that's about it. But you're also responsible, along with the cities, for taking care of the roads.
Yes.
And it's more than just crime prevention and criminal and judicial aspects of it, of the budget, but there's also roads and bridges. There's also, I mean, it really encompasses so many parts of your life.
It really does. You know, in Anoka County, we have 423 miles of county roads that we're responsible for, and over 55 bridges that we're responsible for. But then we also have, in the metro area, we have the regional park system, so we're responsible for the parks. We're responsible for your local libraries. So those are functions that county government is involved with and is really responsible for that, again, people don't really think about.
So in Anoka County, you have how many commissioners?
We have 7 commissioners.
And you divide them up geographically?
Divided based on population. So we have been involved with redistricting, because anytime you have the census, then each level of government needs to redraw the maps to make sure that everyone has equal representation. So in Anoka County, we need to divide the map to try to get everyone representing about 47,000 and some odd people.
47,000. Anoka County is a huge county. What's the population of Anoka County?
We have 330,000 people in Anoka County. And it's also quite diverse as well. We have some areas that are very urban, very suburban areas, and then we have areas that are still very rural. I happen to represent a district that has really a mix of the suburban area as well as the rural flavor.
That's one of the things I love about Anoka County. It's just there, go this way and you're in the farms. Go this way, you're in
Right.
the city.
Absolutely.
And I like Ramsey. I live in Ramsey County too. I have the city of St. Paul, so if I want the urban, there it is. But there's enough suburban there too.
Right.
How about development in Anoka County? Is there a big push to develop out that way? Is that what the people want?
It depends upon the city. And in Anoka County, we were unique, actually going back to the 1960s. As a county, there was a special law that was passed at the legislature that basically gave the zoning and planning authority to the local townships and cities at that time. And so Anoka County, since 1965, has not been responsible for planning and zoning. That's all done at the local level, and I think that's where it should be done.
I think most people feel the more local it can be, the better. I like the way you call county government the invisible part of the government, because it is. And you have the state of Minnesota at the top,
Right.
and they send you down all these mandates. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time on some of the mandates that the state sends down. And then I also want to ask, do you go over to the state when the legislature's in session and say, hey, we've got some problems with this, we need some help with that, we need to get rid of this? And how receptive are they to hearing what the counties have to say to them?
Well, certainly there are a number of mandates, but within those mandates, you have a minimum level that you have to provide, and then you can provide above and beyond that if you so choose. I think one of the things that happens in county government is it's very easy to say, oh, we can't cut this, this is a mandate. And what I have done, along with, I think, the team of commissioners that we have, is gone back to staff and said, okay, don't tell me it's a mandate. So as we're going through our budget process, we're saying, okay, here's the program, here's where the funding's coming from. You're saying it's a mandate. I want the statute to go along with it, and identify which portion of that truly is a mandate, because sometimes you've done it a certain way for so long that you just assume what you're doing is a mandate, and maybe it's really not. As far as our legislators, this session, I think they've been very receptive to working with us. We gave them a list of mandates that frankly didn't make sense, and looking for some flexibility as county government as well. We say we're teenagers or adults, and we probably don't need to be treated like an infant that can't walk and talk on their own. So
what were some of the mandates that you thought could be eliminated or adjusted?
Well, certainly there are things that don't make sense within, say, the child protection system, child support system, where we are mandated to continue to collect from a parent, and maybe the child is 18, but yet they're still continuing to claim that that person has child care expenses. Well, we know that a 17-year-old, 18-year-old doesn't have child care expenses. So making sure that we can make some changes in those laws so that they really make sense for the taxpayer who's impacted. The weed inspector. We have a mandate to have a weed inspector. And, we say, really? A weed inspector? Does that make a whole lot of sense in the metro area? Probably not. So it's a lot of those goofy mandates that you think, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy.
And it all impacts the bottom line, which of course is the tax dollars that people have to pay. Anoka County has been very receptive to taxpayers saying we're taxed enough. Our taxes are too high. We want to keep them under control. Do you want to brag about that a little bit?
I'd love to brag about that. Anoka County took a look at what was happening out in the community and recognized that taxpayers, frankly, couldn't take any more. And we did not want to be kind of that tipping point that would make people lose their homes. I mean, we had over 2,200 foreclosures in the past year alone, and we didn't want to risk additional burden on folks who are already struggling to make ends meet. And so as we received reductions in funds from the state, rather than point the finger at the state and go out and say, oh, I have to raise taxes, it's their fault, and that's why I have to raise taxes, We took a different approach and said, no, we are going to reduce our levy. Levy is the property tax dollars that we collect from our property taxpayers. And we were able to reduce our levy by 7.43%, the
Wow.
largest reduction of any county in the state of Minnesota. It was over $8.1 million. And it was just by looking at doing things differently, coming up with some innovative approaches, and actually asking our staff for ideas. The people who are doing the work on a daily basis on the front line, what ideas do you have about looking for efficiencies? And, what a novel approach.
And, well, yeah, an untapped resource, really. Did I hear correctly that you put a box out in front of the door to City Hall saying, here, put your ideas in here, and it's anonymous?
We did it in an electronic fashion, but it is anonymous. And because having worked at the county, actually, for 12 years before I ran for office, one of the reasons I decided to run for office was because as a taxpayer, there were things that I saw that drove me crazy. And I thought, we really have to change this. We have to do something different. But many times people didn't dare to give their suggestions because it would be automatically shot down by their supervisor, or it wouldn't be looked at all. And so I wanted to make sure that employees had an opportunity to share their information and ideas without worrying that someone else might shoot it down.
So what does a commissioner do? A county commissioner shows up to work every day, and what's a typical day like?
Every day is different, and that's what I love about it. It really is a challenge. I can start off the morning with getting a call from a constituent saying that the water in their ditch is backed up and flooding their yard. I remember the first time I got that call, I thought, what? Are you kidding me? This is a call that a county commissioner takes? So, issues like that. So you have multiple meetings throughout the day. I know that people look at county commissioners and say, oh, it's a part-time job. If you do it right and if you live up to your responsibilities and show up for the meetings that you're responsible to show up for, there's no way that you could do it in a part-time capacity. And there are commissioners that make it very part-time, but then they're pushing the burden of their responsibilities on the rest of the county board.
Right.
And so, I have meetings throughout the day. We are set up very much like the legislature is within Anoka County, in that we have subcommittees that really specialize in certain areas, whether it's human services, the public works, the IT committee, so that we can make sure that information is gathered and questions are asked and answered, and you can have a lot of discussion and dig into the issue. Too many times when people watch the county board meetings, they're like, oh, they're just going through, they're just voting on things, there's no questions being asked.
It's a rubber stamp. They just go through and boom, 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 and I'm like, wait a minute, I have all these questions I wanted to hear the answers to.
Absolutely. And so, when people say, oh, I watch the county board, and I'm saying, you must have insomnia. Because really, it isn't very interesting because the questions aren't asked there. That's because all of the work is done at the committee level. So a lot of those questions and discussion take place at the committee level. So that's where you truly get a flavor for county government.
Do the citizens get to be on some of those committees too, or are these just commissioners?
The committees itself, the county commissioners are on. There are also staff that basically provide the information to county commissioners to make the decisions. As far as citizens, we have a number of advisory committees, and we love and need to have citizen participation in those committees, because otherwise we don't know what direction the general public wants us to go in particular areas.
And you make it very easy for citizens to get involved.
Oh, absolutely.
If they want to, on some of these boards. And the thing that I like about it is there's so many different areas, because look at what you just, human services, park and rec, roads and bridges. I mean, there are so many different communities that you could get involved in if you wanted to.
Absolutely. Pick your area of interest, and there's a way for you to be involved.
What committees do you sit on?
I chair the Human Services Committee.
Which has got to be the biggest one. Is
It
that
is.
the biggest part of the budget?
Actually, Of the property tax dollars, the biggest part of the budget actually is to the Sheriff's Department.
Really?
But when you take into account the other revenues that come in, federal and state, then Human Services certainly is the largest part of the budget.
Yeah. What are some of the things, let's start with Health and Human Services. What are some of the things the Health and Human Services Department does?
They are
At the county
involved
level.
with child protection, public health, corrections, community corrections. We also have all of the welfare programs. We also have a medical examiner's office. So all of those things are part of the Human Services Division.
And then you have the judicial side of it, the law enforcement side of it, which obviously overlaps a little bit with the Health and Human Services, and that's your sheriff.
We have the sheriff's area. We have central communications, the 911. We have emergency management. That all is within really the public safety aspect of county government.
And then Park and Rec, libraries.
Right.
And then IT was the other one?
Right, because we want to make sure that we are taking a look at, within the county, taking advantage of technology so that we can be more efficient. And that's one of the things that we have utilized to save money and to make sure that we are most efficient in county government. So we have embarked on a paperless imaging system so that people aren't touching one piece of paper 5 different times.
Right. And that happens a lot. What's your biggest claim to fame? Oh, okay, I already know this. Your biggest claim to fame is that your property taxes went down almost 8%.
Right.
That's huge. That you deserve kudos and big congratulations for that, because I don't know of any other county that has that claim to fame. What are some of the other big things that you'd like to brag about?
Well, one of the things that we decided to do was business obviously has figured out to look at lean process management. And, you know, in government, too many times we continue to create really monsters of process that are very inefficient. And so one of the things that we decided to do was to look at the Kaizen model, which is a Japanese term, or Lean Six Sigma. And one of our processes within the child support area, just by implementing that process, we were able to have a 65% reduction in the time it took from beginning to end of a process. And so now what we're doing is going into other departments and taking a look at what can be done differently. How can we streamline our processes but yet provide better service to the customer? And so when we look at what we've done in our license bureaus, we had a situation where property taxes were subsidizing those. They should not have to do that. And they should be self-sustaining. And so what we did was we took a look at, let's change the hours at the various sites, but we actually ended up expanding the overall hours available to the public. And so more service available from 7 in the morning until 7 at night, just in different locations. And so we wanted to make sure, again, we recognize people don't work, aren't available to come into the government center from 8 to 4:30 because generally they're working. And so to create an environment where they can access services before hours or after hours was really the goal in that area.
Because it is about service. Ultimately, it's about the service that the county provides to the people of Anoka.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, I want to go back to the property taxes. We get our property tax bill
Right.
in the mail, and of course, 1/3 of it is coming from the city, and the other third is coming from the county, and the other third is coming from the school district. So I don't want people to get angry if they lived in Anoka County and their taxes still went up, because they could live in a city and a school district that spent more money
Right.
and saw theirs go up, correct?
Right. And what happened, that is so confusing because at the top of the tax statement, it comes from Anoka County. That's one of our functions of county government, is that we administer the property tax program. And so a portion of it, you're correct, we're responsible for a portion. So I always encourage people when they call about their property taxes, look at each line, look at the county line. That's what I have control over. And if they're happy with that, that's great. If, the city line, the school district, the thing that I have a lot of concern about is the lack of transparency when it comes to the other taxing districts, because there's a whole bunch of taxing districts that are all lumped into one line item, and people have no idea what they do or how much they may be increasing their taxes.
Like, for example, the Railroad Authority?
The Rail Authority actually has its own line item, and that's the one other thing that I'm very happy about in Anoka County is our regional rail levy was reduced by 65% this year, which is the first time, I think the largest increase ever, certainly, but we're definitely headed in the right direction. Unfortunately, some of our predecessors made certain decisions and were responsible.
Stupid decisions about a train.
Yes.
I want you to back up for just a second and explain people what the Rail Authority is. What do they do, and who are they?
The Regional Rail Authority is your county commissioners. Virtually, they just take off their county commissioner hat and they put on their Regional Rail Authority choo-choo hat, and they make decisions in regard to commuter rail, light rail, and in some counties, bus rapid transit. Not all counties have the authority to spend regional rail dollars on bus rapid transit, but they are responsible then they use those dollars to make decisions as to, do they advocate for additional rail lines? Do they fund additional rail lines? And so, that's one of the battles that I have been fighting since the time I came on the county board. I guess my biggest concern right now is the impetus of many to continue to support a train that would go up to Duluth.
Which is the stupidest idea I've ever heard.
Well, when you look at the mid-1980s, that the Amtrak train actually was taken out of service because there was not enough ridership, and it was costing the taxpayers a ton of money.
Because we love our cars.
Well, we do.
We love to pile our family in our car and go on a trip, and if we want to stop here and look at a historical monument, or we want to stop there and look at a waterfall, or we want to stop there and eat, we can do all those things for cheaper than that train could. Oh,
absolutely. And what's interesting is that they're saying that in 4 years of it being up and running, so they're estimating it'll be up and running in, say, 2014, but within 4 years of it being up and running, they are saying that there will be ridership of 755,000 people. There's no way.
That's a lie.
Of course it just is not at all true.
Who makes up these numbers? Those projections are nowhere near the ridership that we're going to see on a train to Duluth.
Oh, absolutely not.
Even if you had the Super Bowl in Duluth, up there, you would not see that
kind of ridership. Well, the biggest ridership will be to the casino in Hinckley, and even that is not going to be 755,000 trips a year. And in addition, they're saying that the train will pay for itself. There is no train that pays for itself, with the exception of in Hong Kong, actually, where the population is so high and they're so densely populated. That is the only place in the world where a train pays for itself. But somehow in Minnesota, it's going to happen.
No, it's not. With a state of 5 million people, it's impossible to think that any of the light rail lines, or even the North Star, the heavy rail one, there's just no way they will ever pay for themselves and generate money.
Well, and the problem that we are in right now with Anoka County with North Star is that the Met Council signed an agreement with the federal government. I was told that it was a 50-year agreement that they would keep it up and running, because the Met Council is now responsible for North Star. Once it was up and running, they took over and they have control of North Star.
Well, once we abolish the Met Council, that's my goal in life, is to someday see that council abolished. Unelected body that makes decisions for our cities and counties, and yes, even for the entire metro area.
Well, absolutely, and not only in regard to the transit system, but they make decisions on what our roadways are going to be as well. And so in Anoka County, we have had an ongoing battle, and I've been down testifying many times this session about how we need to really do away with the way that the Met Council is set up right now, because it is unelected people making major taxing decisions, major policy decisions in regard to the region's transportation, without the legislature even being able to say, wait a minute, no, we don't agree with these decisions. They can give them advice. They have no control over them.
Exactly. I tell you, that Met Council has to be abolished. Has to be abolished. We're down to our last couple minutes now. It goes fast, doesn't it?
It does. It
I
does.
know, super fast. So I want you to take a look into that camera, and I want you to tell people why local government is important, why your county government is important, and remind them that they can get involved too.
Okay. Well, county government is that invisible layer of government, but it impacts your life on a daily basis, whether you realize it or not. So it's so critical that you pay attention and get involved. And it's very easy to get involved. Contact your county commissioner. See if there's a way for you to be appointed to various advisory boards. Attend the meetings. Attend the committee meetings. Our county board meetings are now live streamed as well. We have information on our website about our county budget by object code. Want to make sure that we are open and transparent to the people that we represent. And most of all, you know, if you have ideas or suggestions of how county government can serve you better and more efficiently, contact your county commissioner and share those ideas. We are there as your representative, and we are there to serve you.
And here's the important thing. For people who don't live in Anoka County, call their county commissioner and have them watch the show. They can find it on the internet, or they can contact you, Rhonda. Their county commissioner could contact you, and you could give them ideas and suggestions for reining in what's happening in their county government, correct?
Absolutely. Well, you know, one other area that we really focused on is reducing the debt service, paying cash, so that we could continue to bring down the tax burden for people. Because right now, if you look at the average home in Anoka County, the second highest expenditure out of their property tax bill is for debt service. That is just a shame. And so that is what we've been doing, looking at paying as we go, trying to pay with cash, setting aside dollars within the budget to pay for technology, to pay for roofs and that sort of thing, instead of borrowing for those things and really mortgaging our children's future.
Well, we're out of time. If you find yourself agreeing with our guest, you might be a libertarian. To find out, take the world's smallest quiz at www.theadvocates.org. Remember, Libertarian Viewpoint brings you the non-government, liberty-based solutions that other media refuse to tell you about. Liberty works. It's always the best choice. And if anyone in government can prove otherwise, I challenge them to speak up. To view past shows, search YouTube using Libertarian Viewpoint. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more non-government solutions.